All right, here we go again on our own, down the only road we've ever known. Rest in peace, Tawny Katan. Hope you're doing well up there in heaven. Hope you've got a convertible up there you can... Anyways, yeah, thanks for watching and clicking on this video again. Denny here in the suburbs of Edmonton, just taking care of some business. I'm just in front of the KFC here. They have a special on chicken sandwiches during Edmonton Oilers game. It's called the Day Game Special. So just thought I'd grab a little quick sandwich, $5. And yeah, I just thought I'd shoot a quick video. Well, I don't know how quick it's going to be, but just I wanted to elaborate and kind of continue on a little bit about the last video, which was called what was it now? Oh yeah, Lost and Confused in Middle Age, being a bachelor and getting older, and some of the challenges and mental struggles that happen when you reach that age and when you're in that phase of life and that life situation, being single, no children, no spouse, partner, and the loneliness and the challenges and feeling not sure which direction to go to, and your ever-changing desires and energy levels. Just a whole confusion around that. I addressed it as best I could, and I just wanted to expand upon that a little bit and maybe mention a couple things I didn't mention in the first video. So yeah, just more midlife crisis talk today, if you don't mind. Yeah, and I guess it's been getting a decent amount of views already and had some interesting comments. And I guess the first thing I wanted to say is the people that, and I respect all opinions, and you definitely have a right to feel however you feel, and do it, live your life how you want. I have a little bit of a libertarian side that says, just leave people alone and let them live or not live, whatever they choose. But I want to be clear, this is not a doom and gloom, give up on life type of channel. And if you feel that way, if you're middle-aged and you have nothing really going for you, and you don't have the will to get better, and you don't see any value in living life, then that's totally your business. But I'm not going to endorse those type of ideas, and I'm not going to promote those ideas or agree with you. So although I am a realist, like I do talk about real stuff, and I know that it is tough for a lot of people, including myself. And have I wanted to give up at certain times? Of course. But this channel is about finding solutions and living your best life with what you have, dealing the cards you were dealt, and still trying to progress forward. Because middle-aged is, if you look at it from a more positive perspective, it is only halfway. I mean, you still have a lot of life to live, and you could think about it in terms of chapters in your life. Just because your phase of excitement, and I mentioned in the last video about how I've lost some of the desire and the excitement to go out to experience the nightlife and engage in the dating scene, and try to meet people out in bars and clubs and all that. I haven't completely retired, but I'm getting there. And and people just move on to a different chapter. Now, the confusing part for me, because of my situation and because of, no, I'm sure the guys who are in the same boat, is like, okay, when that chapter is over, you have to, your next chapter would naturally be, something to do with family and kids and, progressing with that part of life, experiencing that, which I think is, valuable. If you do have kids and you're married, good on you. I don't want to disparage that or say it's the wrong thing to do, depending on who you ask. And, there's people that have had terrible experiences with that. And, there's advantages and disadvantages to both ways of life. The middle-aged bachelor with no family versus the middle-aged father and husband who has that's a whole nother can of worms and challenges. And, somebody mentioned that, it's, he knew, or somebody said they knew people that were married and miserable and, with families, and there's all these other problems like I just mentioned. Well, yeah, that's true. So if you're a middle-aged bachelor and you're longing for, a family and a wife and all that, you should also keep in mind that could be a whole nother world of drama and chaos and possibly serious hurt. And, I'm sure a lot of guys can testify to that. I mean, and in comparison, I mean, just feeling a little bit lonely and lost and confused at times, but still having peace and solitude and living at home is, compared to the chaos and craziness that can happen with married and family life. I mean, you just never know what can occur, and are you built to deal with that? I mean, let's say, for example, you have teenage kids that, just started dating themselves, like you have a teenage daughter or even like a college age daughter, and she's now hanging out with dudes and maybe as a boyfriend and as a protective father, and that's something you have to deal with. And heaven forbid she gets into some kind of bad relationship where there's abuse or other drama, and of course as the father you still, even though your kids may be grown, that's still your baby girl or your boy that's in trouble. And you could have problematic children. You could have all kinds of mental health issues growing up, or even as teenagers, and as adults, drugs, hanging out with the wrong people, possibly getting into a gang, getting in trouble with the law, something terrible happening, just really poor lifestyle, or they maybe get financially destroyed and you have to step in and help. Yeah, it's a whole nother world. And I just know from basically what my father has had to deal with, not only raising me and my sister and some of the challenges we had growing up, but also with his newer wives and girlfriends and all that, which is a whole nother disaster that's it's for the most part over with. This was a few years ago, but just the nightmare scenarios that can happen in serious relationships. You meet the wrong person and destroys your life, as opposed to being alone. There's nobody to destroy your life. It's just you. And although it sucks sometimes, it's you pick your poison, right? Just drink some water here. Don't know if this is poison, drinking out of plastic. There's some debate about that. But yeah, it's interesting. You know, I go back and forth, and I'm conflicted on it. And, you know, you often wonder, even with the challenges and drama and chaos with the family, is it still worth it? You know, because it's such a valuable and noble thing to live through, and to, you know, to raise kids and raise them successfully is something every parent should be extremely proud of. So yeah, and then just, you know, whatever your values are, some people, you know, really value having a family and all that, and some people don't at all. They run away from that idea. And yeah, I mean, so for those who are middle-aged like me and still single, it doesn't mean it's over. Like some of these comments, like, you know, you're 50 years old, your life is over. Like, I mean, how do you even respond to that? What do you say to that? Like, you might as well just give up. I mean, what? So your idea and worldview is that we should all, you know, join some kind of Heaven's Gate or Jim Jones cult and just call it a day, just because we're 50 years old. And you know, it's not like we can live another 30 or 40 years. Of course we can. I mean, there's people that have had the second act or their second half of their story be better than their first half. There's people that have overcome really bad shit in their maybe 20s and 30s. They come back in their 40s, 50s. You know, maybe they start a business. I mean, we're outside the KFC here. Ironically, this just popped in my head. Colonel Sanders, didn't he start his company at like the age of 62 or something? And by 67, he was a millionaire, something like that. Yeah, just because he had a dream really late in life to have his own chicken restaurant. And yeah, and here we are, like 100 years later or whatever the hell. Not 100 years, but whatever it is. And there's KFC restaurants all over the goddamn world. So good on him, and good on, you know, any of you who still have ambition. I mean, I started my company at, you know, in my early 40s, and working independently, try to, you know, work for myself. And that is something I'm proud of, you know. And going forward, I want to do more with it, even though it does get harder because your energy levels aren't the same. But there's exceptions to that too. There's people that are even older that have done amazing things. So yeah, it's just because one part, you know, just because you're not, you know, it's not that appropriate to go to a nightclub and, you know, try to date people, or you know, if you're too old for I don't know, BMX or skateboarding or something that you were passionate about, because, you know, your body is not the same and whatever. There's, you know, you could find other things to do that, you know, don't require you to be young physically. Some of the, I mean, where most people make their fortunes is when they get to their 40s and 50s. That's when they start really, you know, mastering whatever craft they're doing, whatever corporate ladder they're climbing is usually happens later in life. It doesn't happen in your 20s. You're, you know, especially nowadays, you're still living at home and trying to, you know, scrape together a few bucks with maybe a minimum wage job you're doing. And then, you know, you have years and years of work ahead of you just to pay your student debt. So yeah, it's not easy for anybody. People in their 20s, 30s, that's challenging now with the economy the way it is. People in their 30s can't buy houses now. They're still living at home. So yeah, so when you're older and, you know, you can do these things. You can own a home maybe, or you can start a new hobby. And yeah, and it's not like retirement is terrible either. That's something else you can look on the bright side. You know, you could look at it negatively. Retirement signals you're getting pretty old, but it's also time to relax and, you know, think of all the benefits that seniors have if you've, you know, worked a full career and you have a decent pension, you know, and enough to live off, and you can enjoy your time and not have to worry about a boss looking over your shoulder, or you don't have to worry about getting a promotion or asking for a raise. You don't have to worry about HR department giving you a hard time or a coworker you can't stand. All that stuff's over. You've gone into, you know, maybe your final few chapters of your book, and you can, you know, you can just have fun with it. If you have kids and grandkids, you know, you get to spend some time with them. So that's always a great thing. And yeah, it's just looking at it from the right angle and perspective. So again, yeah, this is, you know, a lot of times I am bummed out and I do get confused and I'm conflicted and I contradict myself, but that's life. That's what everybody does. And that's what this channel is for, you know, people who are confused and who are struggling to find their identity and going through a midlife crisis and trying to find their footing again, and people who are stumbling and want to get back on their feet. And also for people who, you know, just really don't see a point and they just like to, you know, watch somebody like me talk about it. That's fine too. I accept everybody. You could leave whatever comment you want, and you could feel however you want. It's a free country, I guess, depending who you ask. So yeah, I just like talking about this stuff. I like to be real and honest and let you know that, you know, I'm not 100% one way or the other. I, you know, do feel bummed out and I get the blues for sure. But I also have a side of me that is, you know, trying to look at it through the prism of hope and, you know, ambition, and trying to still do better, because yeah, your life doesn't end at 45 or 50, or you like to see people succeed because it's reminds them of their failures. So I like to look at it the other way. You know, I could get jealous of people and that have more than I do, and I used to do that a little bit. I mean, envy can creep in, but for the most part, I've tried to learn to, you know, accept my fate, but try to also do the best I can with what I have and the cards that I was dealt, like I mentioned at the start of this video. And I mean, nobody has it easy. Like, you know, if you're wealthy at that level, or and then, you know, you get middle-aged. But you know who I really think struggles with getting older is people who have maybe had a lot of success when they were very young, and a lot of money, fame and wealth at an early age. Because you look at like rock stars, musicians, actors that have gotten successful, and most of them, you know, kind of blow up in their 20s or maybe 30s, but they get so much attention. And, you know, like if you're a decent looking guy that's, you know, a famous and has a lot of money, is like a rock star or something like that. I mean, just the amount of choice you have with women and the dating pool, and you can just dominate that. And you've got all this attention on you, and people love you and admire you and love your music, and or love whatever you do. And just the constant adulation and praise. And people are always paying you money to do stuff you're having fun doing anyways, like performing on a stage. So yeah, that level of just crushing it at life on that level, and just having it all seemingly. And then, when you get older and maybe you don't have that sex appeal anymore, or maybe people have moved on and they, your music is not contemporary anymore, and somehow it doesn't, stand the test of time, or your talents and abilities don't stand the test of time, and you end up being older, and then you can't make money anymore because nobody wants to hire you. So maybe you get into drugs, and you blow all your money, you're foolish with it. So now you're broke and in your 50s, and all that adulation and fame you were used to is gone. And that's got to be a terrible feeling. So, that's when they probably get into drugs, and some of them pass away from that, or they, end their life, or tragically. And so if you're like an average Joe and you're in your midlife, and you're just living kind of a normal life, you don't have that to contrast. So you're like, well, okay, this is kind of how my life's always been. I've never been rich or famous, so I don't know what that's like, and it's probably not going to happen now. So may as well just be happy with what you have. So yeah, just remember that people who have a lot of this stuff you think is glamorous and cool, and you're jealous of, and you wish you had, life doesn't work like that. We all pay the piper sometime at some point, and we all have to look at life and Mother Nature, and she's in charge. She's the boss. Father Time is also the other boss, you could say. Mother Nature and Father Time, there you go. Two things you cannot F with. F around and find out. You deal with trying to take on Father Time and Mother Nature. You're in an avalanche. Sorry, yeah, you're not gonna, nothing you could say or do that's gonna help you in that moment. So yeah, a lot of it's out of our control, and we can just try our best, and like I say, be kind to the people around you, because they may be able to help you. Or when you make a move to a new hobby or a business or whatever, you got to have some people in place that you can count on their support, right? So don't try to get too isolated and kill your social life completely, because that's no good either. You need that. It's important. People in old folks in seniors' homes, they have their game nights, and they have coffee with their neighbors on, they arrange every Monday morning, we meet for coffee and all that. And the only purpose of that is to combat the loneliness and flex that social muscle that you need to live on and live longer. So yeah, I think that's all I would say. I guess the other example, sorry, I'll just circle back a little bit quickly here to, the guy who's like the rich rock star example. With women, it could be even worse, because beauty and sex appeal is basically a young adult game. Like it's 20s and maybe 30s for women, when they can really monetize that sex and beauty and make a career out of it. I don't have anything against it so much. I mean, I wouldn't want, if I had a daughter, probably not my first choice for her to be some kind of OnlyFans model or something. But so that happens, and then that's an even farther crash down, because you don't have men giving you that type of attention and throwing those kind of dollars at you, because again, Mother Nature, Father Time. Hey, don't look at me, I'm just being real. I mean, women, you need to, if you're doing this, you need to have something to fall back on, a skill or a career that's going to provide some value other than, showing your backside and your nipples to strangers, and or just, maybe being a fashion model or something like that. That's a very limited window of time you can do that. You got to be ambitious in other ways and save your money and invest it so you can do awesome things later in life. So yeah, just being real with that. And yeah, that's the things that were floating around in my head the last couple of days, and from this morning when I was reading comments. It's Sunday evening here in the suburbs of Edmonton, and finished my sandwich, and I am now going to watch the Oiler game at home. And I hope you enjoyed this like you did the other one. Thanks for all the comments and likes, and I'm glad you are getting some value out of it, and I'm glad you are sharing your story. And we can go back and forth, and this is just fun shit to talk about and fun things to explore together. And all my homies, single, midlife, you're not alone again, and I support you, and I'm here. I will try to answer your comments, and I wish you well, and I hope God takes care of you like he's taking care of me, and everything will be fine. Peace. God bless you. Have a good rest of the week.